Welcome to the brand new podcast. So, in this episode, we have someone from Singapore. His name is like Marcus, and he's a productivity plus Notion expert. So, I'm glad to have Marcus on this podcast. Welcome, Marcus, to the podcast, and thank you so much for accepting my invite and coming to this particular podcast.
Yeah, thanks so much, Binoa. It's my honor to be here as well, and I'm excited to see what we have in store for your audience.
Yeah, sure. Like, okay, so let's begin with your story. Like, how did you end up becoming productivity expert? Like if you could share your story with us.
So, from my understanding, this podcast is actually tailored towards e-commerce, right? So, what's interesting is that I actually dabbled in e-commerce a while ago. It's been a while. Actually, the very first thing that I started was actually e-commerce. So, back then I joined one of my friends who kickstarted a watch brand. And he essentially ran it on a commerce site. And actually learned a lot through that process because we learned how to manage a team. So that was kind of like my first experience. But more importantly, I think it was the productivity aspects which came into play very early on because as I'm sure you understand, like when you first start your own business and you have like a blank slate, right? You literally don't even know how to like fill your schedule, how to prioritize your tasks. So that was really when I started to dive a lot into all the productivity principles, time management sort of strategies, and things like that. So, and interestingly, during that time, I actually started a podcast for the brand. So I had my own podcast experience. Then I started interviewing a whole suite of people. And over time, I guess I got attracted by the prospect of running my own business aside from the e-commerce. So that's when I left the e-commerce scene, went into becoming a productivity coach, and really started applying a lot of the principles that helped me in the earlier stages of becoming an entrepreneur. So yeah, that's like the condensed version of sort of like how I came about productivity in the first place.
Okay, that is nice. So, okay, so yeah, like even if everybody is like how productivity is like one of the hot topic, like everybody searches on internet. Like, so how do you define productivity?
So it's interesting, right? So if we look at it at a very high level, if we sort of like try to define it by its definition, it's simply like the amount of output that you're able to produce given a certain input, right? So how I usually like to look at it is the kind of outputs that you're looking to achieve is actually something that you need to define by yourself. Like what's the goals that you're even working towards? What are the priorities or the projects that you are currently working on? So we kind of have to set that parameter in terms of your outputs. And then in the inputs side of things, you actually need to look into what kind of resources you have available to you. What kind of environment you're immersed in, like what can you tap into that would help in that sort of scenario. So how I usually like to look at productivity. So, I mean, there are a lot of tips that come to you from all over the place. A lot of people talking about different principles. But I think at its core, productivity is very personalized, right? Because given how we break it down, it's really dependent on what resources you have and what kind of goals you're working towards. Because, for example, if you are already very successful, you have a lot of resources, you have money to spend on outsourcing, perhaps productivity looks different to you because you've got different things that you can actually outsource. Right. And then on the other hand, your goals might be different compared to someone who is just starting out. So I think that's sort of how I like to look at it. So before we even dive into, trying to adopt all the different principles, I think we first have to establish what you're trying to work towards and what you even have, what kind of resources you have to even work with.
Got it. Yeah, I think that is what actually like so you need to be very clear about the inputs, and outputs, so that it become more easy actually. Yes. So, do you have any morning routines you follow? Anything like journaling? Like waking up at 5 a.m. Anything like that?
Yeah. So a bit of context and background into myself. Right now, I'm actually holding a full-time role while I scale my own business on the side. So the business that I'm scaling on the side is in the space of productivity, and specifically I'm helping people organize their digital workflow with workflows with Notion. So initially what I actually did was I would work, and then I would have my 9 to 5, 9 to 6, and then I would start working on my business after hours. But what I realized was that I was too fatigued by the end of the day, that it wasn't really very productive for me at the night time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I really went to optimize my routine, and that's where I arrived at the kind of morning routine I have now. So interestingly, or rather a point of consideration is actually you need to be aware of both your morning and your night routine, because ultimately to get started in the morning, you have to optimize the night before. So
Got it.
generally what I like to do is I would try to get to bed between like 9 to 10 p.m. And then I would try to get like 7 to 8 hours of rest so that I would wake up at 5. And then once I wake up at 5, I would get about 1 to 1.5 hours worth of work, or maybe sometimes 2. So I'll work from like 5 to 7 on my side business. And then I would hit the gym. So I'll get my workout in. Usually that takes about an hour. So I would do it from like 7 to maybe 8:15, 8:30, come back, wash up, have breakfast, and then I would start my 9 to 6. So in terms of morning routine, I would say waking up early. That's the first part. A deep work session, because that's when I feel like most awake. My brain is just like recharged from the night's rest. And then I hit the gym on alternate days. So on days that I don't hit the gym, then I will have a bit more time to sort of like work on my business. But other than that, then it's just the workout sessions that really help. And the last thing that I would add is I take cold showers. So once I'm done with my workout, then I would take a cold shower when I'm back. And yeah, I've been doing it for like a really long time now, like more than 2 years, 3 years. And it really helps me to just put myself in the right mood. And I feel energized after a cold shower. I mean, if you just go and Google the benefits of cold showers, there are tons of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so even for me, like I tried like waking up at 5 a.m. Almost like 30 days. I tried it, but but I was not optimizing the night before. Okay, so sometimes I used to go at 2 o'clock, still I wake up at 5 a.m. to sake of waking up at 5 a.m. constantly. But because I was not optimizing the night before, it was getting so messy. I was super, tired by by the next day afternoon, all this stuff. So, it was not basically like till this point, I was actually thinking that waking up at 5 a.m. will not, is something which is not working for it. But that one thing you told, you need to optimize the night before. So that, that is one thing which is I was lacking, got it.
So usually when people say they want to wake up early, right? I say actually the challenge is not in waking up early, it's actually in sleeping early, because
exactly.
night is especially if sometimes you kind of want to wind down for the night, and then people usually like to go and like watch some Netflix or chill or whatever. So that's kind of the difficulty in terms of like getting into bed early. But I think it's about building up the habit and realizing that honestly, number one, at night, you're probably not doing a lot of like value adding activities. It's probably just nothing much. Right?
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. And then the second thing is, I think, understanding that if you actually get a good quality sleep, that's when you'll be able to actually wake up and feel energetic instead of lethargic.
Yeah, got it. Yeah. So is there any tip for, like how to optimize the night before,
Okay, so a precursor to that, I would say, is actually understanding how your body works. So everybody has an internal, they call it circadian rhythm. And there's actually research that has been done that some people just can't wake up early, or rather they are more productive at, for example, the nighttime or the midday. So I think the precursor to that is actually realizing, or rather understanding which category you fall under. So there are like the early birds, and then there are the night owls, and then there are the people who are in between. The majority of us are in the in-between sort of segment. So the reason for that is because if you are a night owl, it's unrealistic for you to want to strive to become an early riser, because that's just not how your body works. But that being said, if you do want to get up early, and actually sleep early enough so that you can wake up early the next morning, I would say it's about the winding down process. So you'll probably struggle for the few couple of days, right? Like you probably wouldn't be able to fall asleep. You'll probably be lying on your bed and not being able to actually go into deep sleep. But I think over time, as you get used to it, then it becomes easier. But some things that help is always like putting your phone away maybe like 30 minutes to an hour before, or maybe not drinking coffee after 2 p.m., 3 p.m. because it takes quite a number of hours for it to get out of your system. Not eating too late before you sleep. Yeah, so there are a couple of factors that come into play in terms of actually preparing you for sleep. And then if you think about environmental factors, then there could be factors like the temperature, the light, right? So some people suggest actually putting like what do you call it, the eye mask, so that light doesn't come through. So so there are many different factors that you can actually do to optimize it. But yeah, so that's what I can think of.
But what I notice is like while waking up at 5, what I notice is that it's like a something. The feeling is actually different. Like it's like we are doing something great. Like that feeling I was getting. Basically, I was getting. Like so. I am someone who is waking up rather than way before the world is actually waking up. So that feeling I was getting. So like so that is something which is motivating me to waking up at 5 a.m. But the only thing I was was difficult for me to optimize the previous day night. Usually like I go to bed at let's say 11:30. Then usually it takes like 12:30, 1 o'clock to sleep. Then like not enough getting like 4 to 5 hours sleep, and it was not. I was too tired up by afternoon. But second, even though I was having very less sleep, I was able to complete lot of tasks by 12 p.m. Starting from like so usually this was my work routine like when I was doing it. So basically the moment I wake up, like I usually hit the gym immediately. Okay, like I go to gym, walk out for almost like 1 hour, then come back, do some like reading like 15-20 minutes, then like I get ready and start working. And but that will be a deep session, deep work session, and I was able to complete all my major tasks by afternoon. And then after that I am free. So that was good. But by afternoon, like I'll be totally sleepy. Then like I won't be able to, even if there is some meeting, like I won't be able to do it. Like I need to reschedule it. So that is the issue I was facing. Right.
Yeah.
I think I will try it again.
Yeah, I think sleep is definitely a very important aspect when it comes to productivity. I think people don't pay enough attention to it. Like if you could just get 7 hours or 8 hours of sleep a day, I think you would 2 to 3 times like your productivity just like that, just like by that one simple tweak. What usually happens is then people come up with a lot of excuses on why they can't sleep enough. But I always say like a very easy thing is just to look at how you're sort of like wasting time, right? Like a very easy thing that you can do is like for iPhone users, you can literally go to your screen time and see how much time you're spending on the apps.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So yeah,
I was checking last week, like like mine is like almost like 5 more than 5 hours on a daily, like on an average.
Yeah.
Which is like usually these 5 hours, usually like 2 hours will be in the night. After the bed. So that's something I want to. And now what I actually did was like I did a limit for each app. Okay, so Instagram I put it like 30 minutes on a daily basis, not more than that. Even for YouTube, like I put some limit. So like this is something I'm trying to like reduce the screen time. So I want to try. I have a goal to in the next at least like 30 days or 60 days. I need to reduce my screen time to at least like 3 hours, so that like something so slowly I can improve that. So that's something even I'm like struggling at the moment.
Yeah, I mean it is definitely something that I'm working on myself as well. So it's always a work in progress.
Right. Yeah. So Okay, so how can someone start an habit or a routine and stick to it? Like,
Mm, there's actually been a lot of research done around the topic on how to build habits, how to break bad habits. I think one of my favorite books was by James Clear.
mhm.
Was it by James Clear? I
Atomic
believe so.
habits.
Yeah, Atomic
Yeah.
Habits. So I think that book's really help. I think they broke it down into like a four process thing, right? In terms of like I can't remember what's the exact ones. I think there was like Q. I think there's like four C's. I can't remember the exact
Yeah,
sort of
even
like
I haven't
process.
read it. I have the book with me from almost like 1 year.
Yeah,
I
but
haven't read it yet.
essentially there's a way in which you can almost think about how you can structure it in a way to make it. I think there was like making cues invisible, right? For example, or like making the rewards unattractive, things like that. So I'm not an expert on like the habits side of things as much as like I would say James Clear did a lot of research into it. So I would suggest reading into it.
Mhm.
But how I like to approach or think about it is always think about lifestyle habits in the sense where sometimes people aim for like unrealistic things that we won't do beyond 30 days. And then
Mhm.
I'm thinking, what's the point of starting it in the first place? Because
Mhm.
ultimately, if you want to start a habit, it has to be something that's integrated into your lifestyle, and it's something that you're willing to implement in the long term.
Mhm.
Right? So I think when you look at it from that lens, then you can think about how can you take small steps towards it instead of just trying to rush into it. And then when things um get too difficult to stick by, and then you just fall short. Yeah,
Mhm.
because if you are already going in with the mindset that this is going to be a long-term thing, that this is actually beneficial for you in the long run, then I think it's easier to then just slowly take steps towards it.
Mhm. Great, great. Yeah. So even what I actually do is like I just test many habits. Okay.
Mm,
I identify which is like I just identify, and then what I actually do like I identify like what is actually like which I am enjoying it. Then I stick to it. So like very recently I started journaling.
mm,
Like that is something like I love to do. Like so I tried a lot of other stuff. Like listening to like podcast at 2x. Like all this.
mm,
Like I tried a lot of stuff. So currently, like what I actually like the habits which I actually like love is like one is like journaling. Journaling activity is really something which I like to do. Even
mm.
reading habit, like I was able to do it properly. So
Yeah.
now then, so that is something like which is working for me at the moment. So I just sticking with that. So now again, I'm testing new things. Like what are the other
Mm.
habits I can actually build. Then like I want to restart my waking up at 5 a.m. I'm gonna retry it again by optimizing the night before. So so basically, like I will try it. If it is gonna work, great. If not, like I will just move on to the next one. So to finding what is actually working, then just stick to it. So that is what currently like I'm following.
Yeah, I think that definitely works. I mean, you have to find a way to enjoy it
Yeah,
to a certain
yeah,
extent.
exactly.
And I think you also need to give it the benefit of the doubt of having a
Mm,
certain runway for you to actually try it out.
mm,
Right. So because the last thing you want is like, I mean, for example, like workout as a habit, right? For the first 30 days, probably it will feel like shit and you will feel constantly tired.
yeah,
But the effects of it only really come in, after a month, after
yeah.
two
Mm-hmm.
months. So I think you gotta give it some time for your
Mm-hmm.
body to get used to it and for you to reap the benefits. But
Mm.
I would also say that we shouldn't try too many habits at once because then
Yeah,
it gets
exactly,
overwhelming.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
I made that same mistake back when I was trying out these things as well. But I think it's more important to get like the foundational habits in. For example,
Mm-hmm.
like just one habit for your physical health or one habit for your mental health. If like that's a very basic level, right? So some
Mm-hmm.
people could, for example, like physical health, maybe some people prefer playing sports as a habit, or some people enjoy going to the gym,
Mm-hmm.
right? So or maybe for like mentally, some people like meditation, like you mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
journaling. Yeah, so I think it's trying to start with just one, and
Yeah.
then from there you can slowly explore and then add more over time.
Exactly. Yeah, even I do like I cannot do a lot of stuff. So I just like I try it for one habit for a few days and see whether this is gonna work for me. If it is yes,
Mm.
I will check it. Now I'll try the next one. So combining like we'll have like maximum three or four. Three, four is like too much actually. Like the thing is that it takes a lot of time. it takes there are a lot of benefits, but it's like, so you need to also get things done to get results. Plus, like if you're just focusing here, like it should be a balance. There should be a balance of everything. So yeah,
For sure.
right. So okay, so how can someone be more productive?
Mm, if we were to break it down, I would say the first step is a lot of self-awareness, ironically. So because a lot of people would just want the tips and strategies to implement straight away, right? But I would say it's really understanding how you function. For one, like when we were talking about sleep, right? Understanding when do you actually function best? Is it the morning? Is it the midday? Or is it the night? Because only then can you structure your day in a way that ensures that you get the most done. And things like understanding how long is your attention span, or what kind of projects or tasks actually excite you or you dread the most. Because only when you figure out all those, then you can think about using all your common time management strategies to box them all into the different sort of like priorities, right? So I think at this point in time, there are a lot of strategies that are out there. But what has worked for me has honestly just been very, very simple principles in terms of like, number one, understanding what you're working towards, like your end goal. Number two, tracing back the steps to figuring out what you need to do to get there. Down to like what you need to do on a daily basis. And then number three is just prioritizing those action steps. And then number four, I would say, is just focused in execution. So don't multitask. Multitasking sucks. It's not effective. So really focus on one task until you get it done, and then move on to the next one. Then I think just those principles alone, like understanding what you're working towards, prioritize your tasks, and then just work on like your top 3 to 5 tasks every day. I think that would already move you towards your goals very effectively.
Right. Yeah, that is actually like pretty good answer actually. Yeah. Right. So how to overcome, procrastination? Because like everybody as an entrepreneur, basically like since we are actually working for ourselves, we become more lazy, right? It happened to me like a lot of times. Even still sometimes I feel it.
Yeah.
So how to how to overcome this procrastination and take action, like how to self motivate ourselves and get more things done.
I think first things first is to actually set the stage right in terms of saying that it's normal to procrastinate. Everyone does at some point in time. I mean, I definitely do. And I think what sometimes happens is whenever I procrastinate, then I will sort of like beat myself up for it. And then go into that cycle of then it getting worse. Right. So I think we need to have a bit of self-love in that sense, in understanding, okay, it happens. But the next step is then how do we deal with it? And I think how we deal with it is actually understanding what's the source of procrastination. Is it because we are scared of it? Is it because it's something we don't enjoy doing? Is it because the steps are unclear? Many different reasons, but all packaged into this procrastination term. So I think we need to break it down into understanding, okay, what's the reason for me being so unwilling to actually take the next step? Right. So for me, sometimes it would be like, wow, there are so many things that I need to handle at once, and I don't know what to start on first. So I just don't want to do anything. Right? I think that's a very common one. But exactly. There are also others where it's like, I don't have the skills that's required, and I don't know whether I have what it takes to actually execute on it. So you realize, depending on how you break it down, the actions that you take to then tackle them are very different. Because for the most common one, or at least for me, the most common one is the overwhelming task, right? What works for me best is just pen and paper, writing down all the tasks, prioritizing them, and just focus on the top one down the list. That usually works for me. But if it's skills that's required, then perhaps I need to invest some time into looking into what kind of courses I need, what kind of programs I can sign up for, things like that.
Right. Yeah. Even like I use this very simple stuff like like so every single day there is one like I have one needle mover task. Okay. So
Mm,
if even if I skip all the other task, if I'm able to do this one task, it will help me to go towards the end goal. So if I'm super lazy, I will just ignore all the tasks and just do that one needle mover so that that day is like done. Like so that's how like I like that's what I do. Like if I'm super lazy, that's what I do.
mm.
Yeah. And also like another thing is like sometimes even to do that needle mover, we'll be too lazy. So if that's the case, what I actually do is like I tell myself, like so I have I don't know, like I read somewhere like about the 2 minute rule. So I just do it for 2 minutes. I will just, like I will just try it, like do it for 2 minutes and see, like if I'm like if I'm interested, like I will do continue. Like if I, otherwise, like I will just stop it at 2 minutes. So I will
Mm.
just try it out. And most of the times, like I like I just complete the entire task. I just try it for two minutes,
Yeah,
but like
that's a
slowly
good
once
one.
you're into it, like we will start take
Yeah.
everything. So that is something which I do to overcome this procrastination.
Yeah, it's always about generating the momentum, right? Because they always say like it's harder to start moving from like a stop,
Hmm.
but once you get going, it's a lot easier to just
Yeah,
continue.
exactly. Right. So how do you organize your life being an entrepreneur? And also like you told like you are also working. So how do you
Mm.
organize everything? Like how do you manage everything?
So I would have different views on the different things that I have going on. So like my career, my business, and then like personal stuff. So I would say I would bucket them into the different categories. And then what I would do is actually prioritize my tasks and my projects. So at one point in time, I would be careful not to overload myself with taking on too many things at one time. So that's definitely top of mind for me in terms of not overwhelming myself with too many things such that I can't balance everything. And then the next thing I would say is so for me I use Notion to organize everything, and it's a really useful tool in terms of just helping me provide the right views for how I want to work on a certain thing. So right now, what I do is actually at the end of every day, I would try to just go into my calendar, schedule my top three tasks, like things that I want to complete, let's say in the morning, and then for my work, and whatnot. So that's kind of how I create a bird's eye view of whatever's going on so that everything stays organized. So whenever a task comes up, I'll be sure
Hmm.
to plug it into Notion. And then when I have the time, I will go there and sort out all the things depending on whether it's urgent, whether it's not too urgent. So then it will just be in like the archives until I want to make it active. But yeah, so that's kind of how I go about it.
Hmm. Got it. Right. Okay. So, how do you manage, time and, like any productivity apps you recommend so that we can wisely, efficiently manage time?
Mm. Yeah, so as I mentioned, for now, Notion is my main app.
Mhm.
I used to use a lot of different apps. I would use like Evernote, Google Task. I think there's what's that called?
There will be a stage where we explore all the apps. Then we will find, okay, this is the one which is working very. Let me stick
Yeah,
for it.
yeah, yeah. So what has worked for me best is actually Notion has a lot of customization that's available,
Yeah.
which allows me to build different use cases for organizing my life. So I would say my entire life is run via Notion now.
Hmm.
There are certain other apps here and there. One thing that I can think of, I don't know whether this is the most like whether it falls in productivity, but for example, when I'm watching videos, I would like 2x speed. So
Hmm.
there's this like plugin on Google Chrome where you can download to watch, like it
Hmm.
literally allows you to make it like times two
Hmm.
speed. Yeah, so I think there are a few smaller applications here and there. Um, but the main one that I use is Notion.
Hmm. Notion. Right. Yeah. And do you use like Google Calendar to schedule everything?
Oh
Something like
yes,
that.
oh yes, yeah, I missed that out. So for calendar invites and everything, I would use Google Calendar. So
Hmm.
all my schedules, invitations, everything will be in Google Calendar, and then organizational wise would be Notion.
Okay, got it. Yeah, even
Mm.
even mine is like simple. Like what I actually do is like every Monday I plan the week. Okay,
Mm.
the entire week, like I'll plan it in one go. So basically, in my Google Calendar, like all the, let's say, like what time I need to eat the breakfast, what time I need to do the
Mm.
lunch, dinner. So basically, I for these three things, like I just put like 1 hour time. So that doesn't mean that I need to. So it doesn't mean that like I need to take 1 hour to have the breakfast. Like it is like within that time I need to complete my breakfast. So that is the thing I'm following.
Mm.
Then like so what time I actually usually get up. Then I mention all these checks in the calendar itself.
Mm.
Then my work schedules, like I will something which is like I need to do on a daily basis, like I will just mention it there. So that those are like once my permanent daily, things which I'm
Yeah.
not able to change it. First, I will fix that in the Google Calendar. Then I actually what actually I do is like in my Notion, I have a simple task. Like it's like a a table. What I
Mm.
actually do is like so I will note down all the tasks and the date I need to complete.
Yeah.
Plus, I have a priority list. Okay, so
Yeah.
things then I have a project list. Yeah, and number of hours it need to be done. It will
Mm.
take to complete that particular task.
Mm.
So if it is if a task will take around for me to complete, let's say 30 minutes, I will put 1 hour
Mm.
because I don't want to do a heavy lift. Like I just want to do the sport. Like even if so that means actually. So I know that that particular task will take only 30 minutes. What I actually do is like even if I am not able to work in the first 15 minutes, still I will be able to complete the task within the time allotted. So that is whole
Mm.
point. So I do this. Then once my Notion, everything is done, put it in the Notion. I actually scheduled, like based on the number of hours I allocated in the Google Calendar. Then the entire
Mm.
week I just follow the Google Calendar based on the timing. Like okay, now I need to do this particular stuff, and I make sure that I put a lot of gaps in between so
Mm.
that sometimes something will arrive, like something like no sometimes like we get distracted or like we
For
miss
sure.
some task. So basically what I actually do is like if I am missing some task, I try to complete in the same day itself so that
Mm.
all the entire day is like completed. So now I just need to focus on the next day.
Yeah.
So yeah, so this is a simple system I'm following.
Yeah. That's a good one. So it's reliant on the time boxing sort of methodology.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And yeah, so once that done, like I will try to. So my goal is actually to complete like like if I'm able to do like let's say 80% of the all the tasks which I allocated, like I'm happy.
Yeah.
Okay, rather than giving like I need to complete 100%,
All
like
right.
giving
All right.
that
That's a good one.
pressure. Like if I'm able to do like 80% of it, I'm happy. Okay, I'm
Mm.
doing great. So that's what I care. Like that should be another thing which will help us to
Yeah.
because when I'm starting out, I was filling a lot of tasks on a daily basis, and it was like giving a lot of. And after 2-3 days, like I was not able to follow complete all the tasks, and like the entire Google Calendar was making him taking like it was making him a mess. So that's why like I just let's give like let's do a like a small fit. So when I was starting out with the Google Calendar, I was trying to complete like maximum 3 or 4 tasks. Now
Mm.
slowly, once I start, Google Calendar was like like it is like now a part of my life. Notion and Google Calendar is like a part of my life. So once that when I arrived on that stage, now I started adding more number of tasks. So
Yeah.
now I could see like my optimal level is like 6 to 7 is like maximum. I will not take more than that, so that
Mm.
everything is so that then only I'll be able to focus properly.
So another thing that I've heard somewhere else. Have you ever heard of the Pareto Pareto's
Pareto principle,
principles,
right? Yeah,
the
80
eighty
20
20
rule.
rule, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So what was interesting and I liked how they frame it was that in the form of like task completion, the 20% at the top, so your highest priority tasks contribute to 80% of your progress
Result,
and
yeah.
growth, right? So
Yeah.
instead of looking at you completing 80% and feel happy, perhaps even if you complete 20%, because
20%.
those are your highest priority, is you're
Yeah.
already like 80% there.
Yeah,
So when
exactly.
I saw that, it actually gave me sort of like a breather or like a sense of relief that
Yeah.
hey, if I actually just prioritize my task properly and I complete the first few, like I'm actually already making a lot of progress.
Yeah. So there was one I forgot that particular law's name. So like there is one we put
Parkinson's
first.
law.
Yeah. So even I like based on that only like I'm prioritizing the all the task.
Yeah.
Basically, like I said, like if I am too lazy, like I will just focus on completing that one needle mover. And
Yeah.
also like another thing I actually did, like once I'm comfortable with the Google Calendar, now what I actually do is like I started batching the day based on the
Hmm.
projects.
Yeah.
So there are few things like for my e-commerce, like I need to do it on a daily basis. Like even if it is Sunday, even if it's Saturday, like whatever day, I need to allocate at least like one currently like I'm doing 1 hour on a daily basis on that. So that's something which I cannot shift. So
Mm.
other than that, like for me currently, on Mondays, like I usually have some, one-on-one consultations, all this stuff. So, and, basically
Yeah.
like I have a, so a weekly Q&A calls with my community. So all these things happens on Monday and planning plus planning. Okay.
Mm.
So then Tuesday, it's all about giving the consultation calls for other, like non-premium students. Then on Wednesday, it is like a total, like a declutter day. Like I don't do much stuff, like basically even today, like once I'm done with your task, like I'm done. Like I don't have anything much to do. So only the e-commerce I need to do. So that's why like the e-commerce will be the needle mover for me. So I just focus on that. So so today only 2 tasks I need to complete is actually, so today is actually Wednesday. So only the interview with you plus like my e-commerce I'm done with today. Then Thursday is actually like content creation. The entire day I'm just focusing only on content. I
Mm.
record one YouTube videos. I record like 2 to 3 reels, give to my editor. I'm done. So then even Friday, Friday is a day like I try to learn because like like there are, so either it could be a book, either it could be a course, something I try to learn on that on Fridays. Fridays, on Saturdays, like just try to keep it blank. If some emergency or family function, anything comes, like I can actually fit in. Sunday is my actually like I do a workshop, so it is a workshop day, and after the workshop, I don't have anything to do. So every
Mm.
single day there is an like a there's a purpose for it. So that's how I
Yeah.
like plan everything. So it is adding more clarity to my life. So
Mm.
but you cannot do it from day one. It takes some time.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Right. Yeah. So okay. So let's move on to the next question. So how do you focus on what you're actually doing? So any tips on that? Like we very often like we get distracted from like
Mm.
Instagram notification, YouTube videos, all this stuff. So is there any tip for it?
So I would say notifications are the number one
Mhm.
productivity killer. So
Exactly.
I generally don't turn on notifications,
Mhm.
at least not the sound. And when I'm working, I will put it in do not disturb mode, face down,
Mhm.
and then I will put it out of reach. So that's probably one of the easiest thing you can do, but generate the best results is turning off all notifications. So especially on your desktop, I would say have zero notifications. Your
Mhm.
phone, obviously, you want to check some messages here and there. You can put them on your screen, but once you're working, just put it on do not disturb, put it somewhere else. Um, and I would say environment matters a lot when it comes to focus. Obviously, if you have a lot of noise around you, it's gonna be very hard to focus. So I would say usually if I'm in a space where it's slightly noisier, I would just plug in my AirPods, listen to some music, and then that allows me to just tune out and just focus on what I'm doing. Um, and I think for you to focus well, you need to first understand what you're working on as well. So what happens is sometimes if you have a lot of your on your mind and you're thinking a lot of things, then you will get distracted by, oh, let's move to this, let's move to that. So I think that's where planning comes into play as well. In terms of
Mhm.
before you start a session, you need to understand, okay, this is like the first task, second task, third task. So you're not always jumping around and saying, oh, I need to complete something here. Oh, I need to complete something there. And then that kind of breaks the rhythm.
Mhm.
So yeah, those are what I can think of for now. Yeah, I think that's what I would say for
Mhm.
now.
And yeah, so even like what I actually did was like like I'm testing with deleting few notifications, so removing notification. I tried like all the messages, like not the in WhatsApp or Instagram, like the normal message notification. I just turned it off. It gave me a lot
Mm.
of room space. Like that itself gave me a lot of room space. So then I just turned off my WhatsApp notification. So currently like I don't use much WhatsApp on my phone, so I just like I just use it from my from my laptop itself. So basically uh, that too only to my teams. So I try to minimize the use of WhatsApp so that it is also giving a lot of room space for me to focus actually.
Yeah.
Then even Instagram I try to like it is very difficult though, but like I'm trying my level best to So, like shifting to, using it from, it's a laptop itself. If they could bring that, like we can upload reels from Instagram, like from the extra bit, it will be more easy. I will just leave it in the Instagram app. Basically, like Instagram is where, like, so it is checking sometimes. So
Yeah.
currently, like I put an app limit of 30 minutes, that's more than
Mm.
enough. Even YouTube, it is the biggest, distraction.
Yeah,
Like
it is.
if we just open YouTube, we start watching one video and it keeps going on. So even I have put a app limit, and yeah, so that's how I'm trying to focus. And another thing I noticed, like I started very recently, like almost it has been almost like 1 week. Like whatever YouTube videos I'm watching, whatever podcast I'm watching, I'm trying it at 2x speed. So the thing is that, so when I was doing in the beginning, like like I was not understanding any single thing, not getting any single thing. But another thing I noticed is like I'm able to improve my focus. Like the attention we give to that when we are hearing it 2x speed, attention is too much too high when you're actually doing it at 1x. So so that is something like I'm able to improve my focus through that. And I do like, and
Interesting.
recently I started doing like 5 minute meditation, like rather than doing a 30-minute meditation, let's do
Yeah.
it a 5 minute meditation and see how does it actually go.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that is something which even I'm doing to like a master.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, so basically if you're able to, and also like you mentioned, like keeping your phones away, it is the biggest, it is a simplest thing you can do, but it is not hard, it is not
Yeah.
easy. It is
Yeah.
not easy. So yeah, but like I tested it multiple times when my phone is actually not like with me. I work super, like super focused, like but when I'm having the phone, I get distracted very easily.
Yeah.
So that's one. So another thing we could try is actually like Pomodoro techniques. Like like working for 25 minutes. I was using this app. Like now I'm not using, like in the beginning I was using like a Pomo Focus
Yeah.
dot app, like like where you can actually run a 25-minute timer. Just focus on that. Just work for 25 minutes without any distraction. Take 5 minutes break. So I was doing it, and it is all good for starting out. That is actually the best way. Like for
Mm.
Pomo Focus dot app, just set a timer for 25 minutes. Work for
Yeah.
25 minutes. Take 5 minutes break. Do the same thing for like almost like 2 hours. Like then take a 1 hour break. This is what I was
Yeah.
doing. So
Yeah.
even more things can be get like done by doing this one thing, one simple thing,
Mm.
right? Yeah. So all right. So now my next question will be like, how can someone find their passion and build a business around it?
I would say finding your own passion is a tricky sort of approach, because some people find it fast, or some people intuitively know what it is. But I think for the majority of us, we might be lost in terms of what that might look like.
Mm.
But I think how you then go about it is really just trying a whole bunch of things, and then it's choice by elimination. You
Mm.
only figure it out after you've tried enough and you've
Yeah.
eliminated enough that you eventually arrive at the one. So
Mm.
even for myself, I would say how I've gone about it is I thought I liked something. I went to try it out. I realized, there are certain things that I like, but also certain things that I didn't like. And
Mm.
then, through trial and error, that's when I finally arrived at what I have now. And of course, maybe down the road, I might figure, oh, there are maybe certain elements that I like even more. So
Mm.
it's a constant journey. But then the next step from turning your passion into a business, I think, is then trying to find a way that your passion coincides with your strengths. So a lot of us have, or rather, every one of us have our own unique strengths, which brings a different lens to whatever we are working on. So, for example, if let's say you are passionate about e-commerce, um, you can, oh, okay, maybe that's not the best example. Maybe you are interested in clothes, for
Mm.
example, right? Or design. Then depending on what your strengths are, how you monetize your design skills could look very different.
Mm.
So for example, if let's say you are good at execution, So maybe how you would monetize your design skills is actually churning out a lot of design materials. Or if let's say so maybe in a more creator sense, right? But if let's say you're someone who is just very strategic, then perhaps being, let's say, a consultant in design might be your approach. So I think it's figuring out where that sweet spot lies. So I think a popular concept is ikigai, where there are like the four circles, right?
Yeah.
What you are good at, what the world needs. What's the other two? What are you good at, what the world needs. I can't recall the other two.
Yeah.
What?
Even,
Yeah, but basically just
even
like
I actually read this book like 2 months back. Even I am not able to recall it. Yeah, there is a
so
circle where like everything
correct.
like what you are trying to do, like it plays it in the middle. Like yeah, even
Yeah.
I'm not able to recall that part.
Yeah.
And it's like
So
what I think what is like what you like, what you're good at, how you can like, is there any market opportunity, something like that? I'm not able to figure out
yeah,
it. Then something else is also there.
correct. So I mean there are certain categories, but I think
Yeah,
that's a good exercise to do,
yeah.
just to see if you're interested in actually monetizing your passion. I think that's something that would be a useful exercise in looking into where that sweet spot lies. But I think it really comes down to just execution, just trying out a bunch of different things, and then seeing where the journey leads you to. Right? You probably don't know either.
So basically, like Kijai, like what you love, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, and what you're good at.
Right.
And like Kijai lies in between all this stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, which is actually really good stuff. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So yeah, so like let's wrap it up. So what message you want to share with my audience? Like someone,
Mm,
like there will be people who want to start as an entrepreneur and who is already in the entrepreneurship journey. So what do you have to share with them? Any message?
yeah. So I would say that, especially to those who are considering entrepreneurship, if you know that the path is for you, that you're excited by the prospects, I would say just try and go for it and don't be afraid of failure, because as they always say, failure is just part of the learning journey. For me, how I look at it is I would much rather try and fail so that I don't regret than having it always at the back of my head and, towards a couple of years down the road when I don't actually have the opportunity to work on it, to then look back and wonder, what if I actually did something about it? So that's my thinking on it, because I have a lot of people around me who's also constantly thinking about starting new things and they're always stuck. But I always say that um I think if you ask any entrepreneur who has already been on the journey, the only regret they have is not starting
Starting
earlier.
early, yeah, exactly.
So it's ironic, right? So the thing is, it might seem very scary, but even if, let's say, you put it in the context of, let's say, if you have a job now, right, and you want to pursue entrepreneurship, there's nothing stopping you from, if it actually doesn't work out and you going back to the job. In fact, you will come back with like, a renewed set of skill sets, refined mindset, because you've gone through a lot of things through the entire journey. There's a lot of intangibles that you bring with you as you embark on the entrepreneurship journey. And in my own journey so far, I would say it has taught me a lot. I'm sure you can relate to,
Yeah, yeah.
from learning more about yourself,
Yeah.
about just the whole business world in general, whatever niche you're in. And I think there's only positives to be taken out of it, because each experience or each failure is just a lesson for you to learn something from it, and brings you onto whatever you're embarking on next. So I think the message, very simply, is just, if you even have the slight inkling of you wanting to try it, just go for it and then just live with the results.
Got it. Yeah, like so, you're talking about this failure. So even so I totally believe that if you're not failing, we are not doing it right.
Yeah.
That's what I personally believe that is actually something. And how I actually see failures is that failures are actually my stories, which is going to inspire someone else in my future. If there is no
Mm.
failures, if there is only success, my story will not be, like my let's say after 2 years, someone is going to interview me as a successful entrepreneur. So
Mm.
if there is no failures, that story is not good enough.
There's
Right?
no hook to the story. It's just
Yeah.
like
Yeah. So that's what I see it. So I'm thinking when I'm failing, I'm thinking about that one person who's getting inspired after after my let's say my interview or
Mm.
something, my talk
Mm.
or something in the next
For
two
sure.
days. So that actually motivates me. So that's how I was going into huge big issues and all, a big failures in my e-com business and all this stuff. So this is how I was able to position myself. This is how I was able to overcome. So otherwise I was sharing this, so there is a point where PayPal put an hold on my account of $20,000. I didn't know what to do, so I need to pay to suppliers and all that. I didn't have that much money actually, so I didn't know what actually to do. And so PayPal told me that send us basically send us a tracking information. We will transfer the fund. So in order to give the supplier, I need to pay at least like $10,000. So I was like literally stuck. Like what I need to do now? It is like too much thing. So I was sharing the story, like how I actually overcome all this stuff. I told this, like I was just thinking about that one person who's gonna get inspired by hearing about the story. So I was just focusing on that part. That's how literally I was able to overcome it. So okay, so I did this, and now again it went, it went a mess, but still I was able to overcome this. So that is actually, then only, like with failures only your story is gonna be something great. If
Mm.
there is only success, nobody want to hear that story. Like there is no interesting fact in that particular
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that is actually, and what I also what I noticed is that, like the when we are actually failing, this is what I believe. Like I don't know whether it is wrong or not, but I still believe that if you're failing, like that means uh, universe is actually testing you whether you are actually capable of holding success.
Mm.
Okay, so this is what I truly believe it. I don't know whether it is true or not, but I still believe it. I like to believe it like that way. So yeah, so like that's how we will be able to, so universe is testing whether we will be able to overcome this, handle this failure. Then only, if you're not able to handle failure, then you are not worth of handling success. So
Yeah, I
so
like that. That's a good
like
one.
so that's what I am, so these are the few things like I see when I'm failing. Like it's okay, like I'm gonna find it a way, and I will just move on. So, and another thing is like I don't see myself quitting. Like whatever happens, I will not quit. Whatever the biggest problem I face, it's okay. I will learn a lesson from it. I will just move on. Even if it is I face like big loss, it's totally fine. I will just learn. Like
Yeah.
I just correct it the next time. So that's
Mm.
all we can actually do, and that's how we will be able to move ahead. That's what I believe.
Mm.
Right.
That's good.
Yeah. Okay. So it was a wonderful session with you, Marcus. Like I was able to share a lot of things, and thank you so much for sharing a lot of insight about productivity and everything. And I hope everybody who is listening to this, like you get some value as well. So thank you so much, Marcus, for coming to the session. So thank you so much. See you in the next episode. Bye bye. Okay.
Thank you.